Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Graham Lincoln McLean podcast presented by Ingles and the Miami Hurricanes, the official supermarket and the official team of Graham Lincoln McLean. Mac, this weekend, there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah.
Frankly, and I think anybody who's tuning into us who's a fan of an ACC team understands that a lot of teams kind of disappointed, a lot of the big brands, but there was still a lot of good stuff from the weekend. You have some teams that I think are up and coming, that are exciting, that are interesting, Syracuse, Georgia Tech, Louisville, etc. But really, the talk of this pod, we will talk about what went wrong for Clemson and Virginia Tech and others, but the talk of this pod is going to be the Miami Hurricanes because they were incredible, Mac.
Let me just tell you guys kind of how the weekend went down. So we started Raleigh and abysmal game for 3 quarters, embarrassing game, could not run the ball still. And you're just sitting there. I didn't know what was happening. I literally could not comprehend.
It was scary for a second.
It was horrific. And then the fourth quarter comes along and you're like, okay, we can breathe, I guess.
Yeah.
We feel better. It looked a little bit better. And then get to Atlanta and that happens. And it was a great half. And I'm very optimistic and I'm excited. And I'm thinking, okay, some sick adjustments are about to happen. Feel really good about this. And meanwhile, while I'm doing that, I see that Vanderbilt is winning like 17-0.
Literally, yeah.
No way. There's no way this is happening. And so right about what time was it? It was probably close to 3:40, 3:30. My day was ruined. Like it was the worst day possible. And then thank God for the Miami Hurricanes. They saved everything. And we're back. We're up.
We're back, baby.
I feel so good. But anyway, so we've got a lot to dive into, KG. So many games, 100 million games. I think 16 games. We're going to touch on each of them briefly, some much more detail. But the one kind of silver lining that I do have at the end of the tunnel, I'm in Tallahassee right now. I get to go home soon, and then I get to go to Clemson, where my favorite Ingles is right there. I'm going to load up for the weekend. We're coming to Tiger Town. I'm going to have the tailgating goods. I cannot wait to be home. So really fast, a message from our friends over at Ingles, and then we are going to dive in to this weekend.
It's time to discover the convenience and time savings of contact-free pickup with Ingles Curbside. Just visit shop.ingles-markets.com or download the app. And your Ingles personal shopper gets to work with specialized training on how to select the freshest items for a pre-scheduled pickup. They'll even text you with updates. You pull up to a designated space and your personal shopper delivers your items right to your vehicle. Fresh, fast, and affordable. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Mac, you know what they say. If your team is not living up to your expectations, you better win the tailgate. And Ingles can help you do that.
Doing that. I'm not worried about that.
Exactly. We love our friends over in Ingles. All right, let's start with the biggest game of the weekend for the ACC in terms of a positive note. Number 19, Miami, goes to the Swamp and absolutely dominates Florida. They win the game 41-17. Mac, I was impressed with so many things. I got to watch the second half live coming back from the Clemson-Georgia game and then sat down today, recording on Sunday, and watched the extended cut of the game. And I told you when we came on here, I could watch Cam Ward play football all day. That guy is so fun to watch. I thought he was going to be good. He exceeded everybody's expectations. He's so confident, so relaxed, making crazy throws, great awareness in the pocket, using his legs. Confidence is really the word that comes to mind. To go into the Swamp, new team, new system, new coaches, new wide receivers, and look like he's been playing with this team his entire life. I was so impressed, Mac.
I was too. And a lot of the things that you were saying off camera is exactly what we were saying, last night with the huddle and kind of breaking this game down. And the word you used was everything just seemed slow around. Like he was just, as you mentioned,
relaxed.
Yeah, so relaxed and not fazed by anything. And it is a very fascinating kind of case study to see that because, again, it's chaos everywhere. And he manipulates the pocket so well, subtle movements. He's not freaking out. And listen, he's played a lot of ball. This guy has been around, seen stuff, but now he's at the pinnacle. Like, this is the most talent he's ever had around him, the best offensive line, the highest stakes as well. Again, playing in games kind of like this. So it was really, really fun to watch. And you just heard, I will never forget EJ calling me, after that spring game and just like, this dude is good. Like he's really good. The arm angles, the, elusiveness, everything that you kind of expected. Uh, but then, you just don't know until you get in a game. You just don't know how it's going to mesh, how it's going to work. And he was tremendous. And again, the arm angles, there was this one play in particular, KG, where he's getting pressure, bootlegs out to the left, running the opposite way, kind of rotates and throws it right to a guy in the end zone, like two defenders coming in. The ball goes right in the middle of them, touchdown. And I'm just like, wow, this dude could win a Heisman Trophy, probably on the front runner right now. When you look at it, and the hype train that's going to come with it, with Miami. I mean, listen, Clemson, that Paul is a big brand, and it's grown and it's done its thing. And same thing with Florida State. EJ and I were talking about this. That U is worldwide. You know what I'm saying? And those fans go crazy, very quickly. And they've been, sleeping for a little bit. So I know they are jacked up to be back. I couldn't imagine this game having gone any better. We said on the pod, I feel like, double digits, a touchdown at least. I didn't quite think it would be this type of belt to booty butt whipping. You know what I'm saying when I see it.
That was great. I completely agree. And I thought Miami would win. I thought it would be a little uglier. I didn't think it would look so seamless. Like
Yeah.
Cam Ward's been playing with these guys his entire life, like I said earlier. And when you look at the environment he did it in, I thought I was so impressed when he threw that early pick.
Mhm.
And it's like it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. Plus, credit to Miami's defense for holding Florida to a field goal off of that pick. I thought that also said a lot. Like, hey, we're not going to just give you a touchdown in this situation. And then, Mac, when I felt like this was solidified, that A, I felt the game was over. And B, I thought, okay, Miami is back. Like, I thought Miami was back specifically when they get the ball back with 3:26 to go in the second quarter before halftime. They go 8 plays, 75 yards, and score.
Right.
I hadn't seen Miami show that kind of dominance, confidence, shut the swamp up. Like people are leaving, I'm sure, after that.
Right.
I haven't seen that in my lifetime, at least that I can remember.
Sure.
It was impressive.
Yeah, no, it completely was. And it really, it comes down and back to what we said about that kind of holy trinity of quarterback and both lines of scrimmage on fire. And they dominated. I mean, they pounded the rock when they wanted to. They protected the heck out of Cam. He got sacked one time, and he goes on camera saying, that was my fault. I should have moved a different way. I should have moved whatever. I do too. And the ownership, the security blanket of Xavier Restrepo, that dude made catch after catch.
Yeah.
Did a spin move and like tore a dude's ACL. Like I hope he's fine, but I think he's pretty hurt. And he's a monster. He really is. And I think a guy like Sam Brown had a drop, had a play where he should have extended and got a touchdown, had a miss, kind of trick play touchdown. I think he's only going to get better. So potentially your best or most dynamic wide receiver didn't even have his best game, and you throw for 385 yards. Like it's crazy, and 3 touchdowns against an SEC defense. So I'm fascinated to see what this team's going to look like. Defensively, sacks, had a bunch of tackles for loss, very disruptive. And again, just Florida didn't know what to do. And they had that one, 70-yard pop, which, okay, when you're aggressive, that can happen. If you blitz and they miss or you miss, look out, nobody's behind you. And they took advantage of that. But that was a big bulk of everything that Florida was able to do. And that is all on top of Reuben Bain only playing like 3 plays. Like he was out. I don't know what happened or if he's okay, but he's posted something after, so I'm sure he's fine. The best player on your defense wasn't even fully available. So the sky is the absolute limit for Miami. We kind of thought that coming in. And I remember us saying a little bit too, KG, if you think Miami can win the ACC, you need to think they can be in the national championship, not just a playoff. Like they're coming for it. And I look at these next games versus Florida A&M, versus Ball State, at South Florida. You're talking about they're going to be ready.
Yeah, they're going to be top 5.
Ready Friday night when the Hokies come to town.
They're going to be, I think they'll move into the top 10, maybe top 5 by that point because other people will lose. And we've said it all off season. The schedule is very manageable for Miami. They don't draw a lot of the big names. They get Florida State. Virginia Tech obviously doesn't look
Both
Very
0 and 1.
challenging.
Right.
Right,
Crazy.
exactly. They don't have Clemson on the schedule, but hey, whatever. And then they have, sorry. And then they do have Georgia Tech Syracuse at the end. That could be more
Got a little more
interesting.
difficult. Got a little more
Yeah,
difficult.
Louisville in there, but obviously very manageable. Mac, I thought if you're looking at kind of a stat that is a little more in the weeds, that was very telling for this game, besides Cam Ward's numbers and all that. Miami 5 for 10 on third down, Florida 1 for 9. I mean,
Yeah.
that's it right there. And that tells you what your offense did, but also what your defense did. And
Yep.
then maybe even more important, Miami had 2 penalties. That's it. And they had 1 turnover, was the Cam Ward pick, but he obviously made up for it. Just so it was kind of nice, Mac, to feel like the hype that we heard all off season and that you and I were buying into with Miami was true, because a lot of the other hype that we heard all off season and that we bought into didn't work out. But this was nice. It felt nice to think, oh, okay, yeah, we all thought this was going to happen, and that's what
Yeah.
happened.
No, I agree. And just to go back to the stats, one other one that I love is time of possession, which, doesn't matter a ton, but it is an interesting thing. Miami having the ball for more than 10 extra minutes. Again, just long drives, keeping it, taking it away. I think all those things are really telling and indicative
Yeah.
of how the game really went. And, it's funny, you talk about that hype. Starting January, I was like, I'm not going to believe anything that's said
I know.
about, not going to believe it. And then day by day, I'm just like, oh, I really want to, really like it. Then I saw them. I'm like, oh, Kelly, I think they're going to be really good. And here they are. So you're right. It is nice to have a little confirmation, seeing how we didn't have much anywhere else. But
Yeah.
games are going to be good. It's early. We're going to hear that about every team we talk about right now. Still a lot to do, but man, you feel really, really excited about where they are and where they're going to be going.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it shows that you can use the portal and use it well and get new blood in there and get guys that really want to be there, but also mix them with guys that have been there. Like you mentioned, Bain, of course, he'll be back, we hope. And then the Maui Noahs, and Restrepo. That was a great example. Like Restrepo has been probably the most consistent Miami Hurricane over the past, what has been there, 3-4 years?
4 years. Yeah.
And he finally gets a quarterback in there that can truly accentuate his skill set, and boom. I mean, he was incredible in the Swamp, Mac.
He was. It was fun to watch. And, I think just the other kind of piece of it, when you talk about, love and passion and for your school and all these things, I don't know if you saw it, but a video was leaked from the post-game speech, and Mario Cristobal is going,
Oh, I'm sure.
Damn, and is so excited and just, proud of his guys. And, all this crap people have been saying about you guys, you've done nothing but fight, and you believe, and you love this universe, all these things it was literally listening to a former player talk about his school.
Yep.
And, they got over a little bit of a mountaintop. And it was funny. I was texting with him this morning and just said, congrats. It was so fun to watch. And he said, thank you, bro. It was really fun. On to the next game. Like I'm watching film.
Right.
And
and that's what you got to do. Yeah.
He's just a machine. He's a monster. I love it.
And he's probably had quite a bit of Cuban coffee this morning as he gets ready to continue this Miami season. Well, of course, much more Miami talk coming throughout the season on this podcast. Let's get to our other 2 big 3 games that we previewed on Friday and recap them. Number 14, Clemson lost to number 1 Georgia 34-3 in Atlanta on Saturday. Mac, there's so many ways we could go here. I think I want to give you the floor first. We were both there, so we can both kind of speak to the experience.
That's right.
I'll say Mercedes-Benz Stadium is awesome. I really enjoyed the stadium, the food, the beverages, the air conditioning, all wonderful. Beyond that, Mac, I'm going to let you start.
Yeah. There are so many different ways to look at it. I think and again, we've had some time. I've done some TV on it. I think that I'm going to take a bit of the positive road here and think that Georgia's the best team in the country.
Okay.
I'd heard that coming in. Mark Packer's telling me all these things. He's talking to various people who are former NFL GMs and scouts, and they went to Georgia's practice, and they've been to Alabama, Ohio State, everywhere. And they have said, talent-wise, Georgia's undeniable. Like they said, just give them the trophy, it's over. And I hear that, of course, as a team about to play. And you're like, yeah, right, let's see. Come on. But I think how you saw that was the second half. I mean, you have an extremely talented Clemson team with a bunch of 5 stars, a lot of talent, but not enough talent, and ran out of gas. I mean, literally ran out of gas in a half where Georgia scored 28 points, and the previous they scored 6. And so I think there is something to that. I saw flashes of growth. I saw throws from Cade Klubnik that I hadn't seen in his career, probably. Not enough of them, not consistently enough. I saw an offensive line that looked dramatically different. I was able to run the ball between the tackles and was able to really get yardage when they needed it at certain times. I saw a receiver core that, specifically looking at Antonio Williams and Brenningstool and Tyler Brown, even though he needs a ton more opportunity than what he got. I saw Antonio Williams making guys miss. I haven't seen a receiver do that in I don't know how long. Not just get tackled for the first guy that runs up to him. So from that aspect, I have to go back and forth to think, when will Clemson see a defense like that again? Probably not till December. When will Clemson see an offense like that again? Maybe the same thing. And so how good can they be? That's what I don't know. How good do they want to be? There were certain play calling things at KG I did not like at all. Specifically looking in the second half, Georgia marches down, scores. Game feels like it absolutely shifts.
Yeah.
Clemson marches down, gets to the 6-yard line, 1st and goal, had been running inside the tackles, making good passes, gets all the way down there, tries to run outside. And I don't know if you know this or not, but when you get closer to the end zone, everything speeds up. Everything is faster. So trying to go sideways is not a good idea, especially with a 230-pound running back. Trying to run your quarterback, who is a little, whatever you want to call it, probably not the best idea. Run up the middle. Run up the middle. I would have ran it 4 straight times. And if we didn't score, that's on us. And if we did, okay, great. And then the lighting problem, they throw it's cover 0. He's getting heated up and he's tossing something to probably could have been a touchdown, but the receiver couldn't see the ball. That happened twice. I hated that play calling down there, but I'm not the coordinator, never been one. I'm sure it's hard. And then just kind of the lack of adjustments overall. And Coach Sweeney said that. I mean, he said it's totally on me. And just how they respond is going to be fascinating. Again, where this team can go. Again, there's so much talent. It is frustrating that you have a half of football where you're like, dang, these dudes are back. They're really good. And then it's like you flatline and Georgia just goes ham, and they're extremely good too. Last thing on the defense, again, the first half, brilliant, really, really impressed. Defensive line repositioning the offensive line, pushing back that line of scrimmage. They averaged 3.1 yards a run. Second half, again, guys getting tired, they averaged almost 8 yards a run. Huge, monumentous difference. Really big deal. So, like I said, it'll be interesting, where it'll be. That might have been a little too positive, KG. I am interested to hear kind of yours as well.
I'll add a little more negative, I guess. Try not to be too negative, but I mean it was tough to watch. I think everything you've said, Mac, especially at the beginning with, hey, you're not going to face a team this good. You could still win the ACC. That tells me everything, because it just tells me expectations have completely changed. It's just completely different. And I think, so I heard someone say this, and I agree, because I was at both these games. So I feel like, and you were too, Mac, but the 2021 game against Georgia and Charlotte, to me, I think we all felt that was like, oh, okay, this may be the beginning of, Clemson's not what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think that game was the beginning of maybe the end. And then this game was like, all right, yeah. And it was both against Georgia. It was both against the best team in the country, the best program in the country right now. I understand how good Georgia is. I am not trying to take anything away from Georgia. They are very good. But to only score 3 points, I think you gave up 34. You gave up, obviously, 28 in the second half. I think it's just human nature for any defense to be like, we're exhausted. Our offense can't stay on the field. Eventually, Georgia's going to score on anybody. So I still think there's a lot of positive takeaway from the defense. Now, were the linebackers struggling a little bit at times, and the secondary not as good as we thought? Perhaps. I thought the D-line still held up really well overall. Carson Beck was just wheeling and dealing. He looked so calm and confident out there, and Georgia could run the ball, and they were more creative, I think, as we expected. But for Clemson, Mac, this may be hindsight. When Cade throws that first ball at Moffa's feet, you just kind of feel like, okay. I mean, it as someone who's in the stadium, it felt like the air just came out of the stadium, and you thought, all right, it's this again, because that would have been first down.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then, what are we doing now?
It's a big
There's all
deal.
these,
That first down is a really big deal.
that's the tone, and there's all these ifs and then if Clemson does all these things, I still don't think they win. I
Right.
still think Georgia wins,
Yeah.
but it obviously could have been a better showing. And I thought we saw a little more creativity at times, Mac, but the penalties were terrible. Like the penalties were killers
We
in
said
that
that.
game for Clemson. It just feels like kind of same old, Mac. And as someone who was there, the Georgia fans were as you would expected. And
Did anybody bark at you? Did anybody bark at you?
of course,
Really?
Mac. I had a kind of a different experience. So I sat right next to a Georgia fan, nice young gentleman and his dad. Very nice. We were chatting, we were cordial, blah, blah, blah. There was a Georgia fan up to the right of us that was not cordial. Let's just say he didn't have all of his teeth, and he was chirping me, my husband, and etc. So, there was that. And then one thing I heard, Mike, there was a couple behind us that was a Clemson Georgia split couple.
Yeah.
And the wife was just like, oh man, like, of course, this is it. This is kind of what we are now, blah, blah, blah. And another Georgia fan goes, man, I really miss confident Clemson fans. Like, what happened to you guys? And I was like, well, are you watching the game? Like, I mean, it's hard to be confident with that. But yeah, it was good people watching, Mac. That was fun.
Yeah, I'm sure. How about this? Give me, and we'll move on from this. We could still, I'm sure, go 1,000 different places. If there's one, maybe two, maybe one thing that you really would love to see moving forward, starting App State, is there anything you can kind of put a finger on?
I think it's wide receiver play, but that coincides with quarterback play. I think it's the passing game. I'll just say it's the passing game. That's easier to say. The penalties, obviously, most of them came from the passing game, whatever you want to call it. Just kind of the lack of connection, the lack of creativity, the lack of taking shots. And I think it boils down to one big word, the lack of confidence. I just feel like there's no confidence in what Clemson wants to do in the passing game. That'd be the one thing for me, Mac. What about you?
Well, yeah, and again, I think to that shot that they threw to Antonio, there was a couple other ones. I mean, and again, Clemson didn't have a lot of plays. They was 3 and out, getting the ball over, so you didn't get to see a ton, just from a strictly availability standpoint. But I just, it felt like there was more than there has been. And again, this is against the best defense that you will see probably this year, up until potential postseason, whatever that might look like, or ACC championship. But I'm in the same boat, different change. The only wide receivers I want to see out there are 0, 6, 1, 12, maybe 10. You gotta give other people a chance.
Sure.
Gotta give other people a chance with penalties.
Give
drops,
some freshmen a chance.
Have to. And guess what? That's where all this started, by giving freshmen chances.
True.
And that's how it exploded. And so I don't know if it's a overcommitment thing. I don't know if it's got to do it in practice thing. All I know is all we see is on the field when the lights are on and the camera's recording. And so it's just one of those things where maybe guys are gamers, and you gotta give them a chance and give them opportunity. I don't know if one even played yesterday, and TJ Moore. I don't know. And I saw, 12 on the field maybe twice, Brian Wesco, and I was not targeted. I have to imagine those guys are elite. That's why they were given the opportunity to come here. You have to let them do it. And so we'll see. Who knows? Again, never been a coach, never made any of those decisions. I don't know. But I've been around football a long time, and I know what good dudes look like, and I know what not good dudes look like. And so we'll see. It'll be interesting. It's going to be really interesting to see how Clemson, comes out. Are they like pissed and angry?
Yeah, I'm very interested in that.
It's real good. They're very good. So
I've scored 40 over the weekend. So something to keep an eye on. But I think obviously you can only go up, but we also have to remember Georgia very, very good. We know that. And this game, you're better than this, but how much better? We will see. All right, Mac, let's get on to, because I know Hokie fans probably feel very similarly to what we're talking about with Clemson.
No,
Virginia
they
Tech.
don't. No, they don't. No,
They
they
don't?
don't. They feel way worse.
Okay,
Way
worse.
worse.
Okay. Virginia Tech loses at Vanderbilt. I just can't believe it. 34-27 in overtime. I want to start by giving credit to Vanderbilt. I thought Vanderbilt showed up. Pavia, Diego Pavia is a dude. I mean, that Virginia Tech could not contain him on the edge. My number one thing I wrote down, we talked about this game, was don't take the opponent lightly. And I felt like Virginia Tech did that from the jump. And it's like, Virginia Tech, you still have so much to prove right now. Like, you can't take anybody lightly. And then you have a really bad start with that pick on the screen pass, which was tough. But then, Mac, all that being said, when Virginia Tech goes up 27-20 with like 4 minutes to go, I think they're going to win the game.
Me too.
And again, that's even more credit to Vandy, because Vandy normally just would be like, okay, all right, we had our shot, but we're not going to win this.
Yeah.
So I'm giving credit to Vanderbilt, but obviously terrible loss for the Hokies.
Horrific. And it's like, I don't really even know how to explain it, because the defense was atrocious.
Yeah.
A unit that we thought was going to be really strong, really disciplined, old. Every guy you talked about sounded like they understood the opportunity at hand. That's why they came back. That's why they wanted to come back. I mean, I never even imagined this being on my bingo card of things to discuss.
Yeah.
Never.
I know.
Never even.
I don't think anybody did.
Yeah. But I mean, you got a quarterback in Vandy that they couldn't contain, 100 yards rushing. We literally said, contain the quarterback, stay disciplined in your rush lanes, understand the task at hand. And there was nothing that they could do. Now, Drones had 322 yards through the air. It looked like cramping. I hope that's all it was, and injured and had to come out and wasn't able to, finish the game in certain spots. Showed promise through the air. I was concerned with the run game and thereof from a running back perspective. Kind of felt like the Tennessee game, Cade's first start, where you're just like running your quarterback to death. Like, you have two great running backs. Let them run the ball.
Yeah, Drones had 16 carries.
Crazy. And Bashal Tootin had 9, and Malachi Thomas, the second string, had 1. And so, I don't know. I'm going to chalk it up to press clippings and overlooking your opponent. And hopefully we see a massive bounce back. But hard to reset the standard when you lose to the worst team in the SEC and you were predicted as a dark horse. So, we talk about a lot, KG. This is how you change the narrative. Unfortunately, we changed the narrative negatively this weekend. And it is a massive uphill battle to climb. And come playoff time, all of this is coming back up.
Yeah.
And
it sets you back.
Really hard. It's going to be really hard for the ACC because of this initial type of thing. And that's frustrating, obviously, for us. It's frustrating for, I know, these coaches and whatever. But it is a long season. Who knows what can happen? If you're Virginia Tech, you put your head straight down and go to work, because based on recent history, your schedule coming up is very difficult, and you got to take care of business.
This game was so odd in a lot of ways. I think, I know they had film on Pavia from his previous stops, which were at lower levels. I don't think they really knew what to expect from Vanderbilt and from Pavia, and I think that really showed with the defense. Now, on the flip side, Kyron Drones was not the problem.
No.
I thought Kyron Drones played really well. That one pick was tough. It was tipped, So the running game, yes, that leaves some questions. Ollie Jennings, he had 91 yards, he only had 2 catches. He had that one big play. You have a quarterback. Like, look, there are other teams in the country that would kill to have a quarterback. You have Kyron Drones. Where can you go from here? And this is a terrible loss. There's no way around it.
Yep.
Maybe Vanderbilt surprises. Maybe they make a bowl. I don't know. But as cliche it is, you just got to move on to the next game. You can still have a solid year if you're Virginia Tech. This is just shocking in a lot of ways. Not how we thought it would start. But you got 11 games left. You're not going to the playoff. I mean, I don't know. Crazier things have happened. Maybe you are. But I still think you can. And now I'm taking the positive spin on the Hokies like we did vice versa. I still think this can be a productive year.
Sure,
But
Ken.
you've got to find a way to flip that switch quickly. You've got
Quick.
to.
And maybe this creates a sense of urgency. It's kind of what I said about Florida
Yeah.
State. We'll see that later tonight and come out with
Yep.
something tomorrow for you guys about that. But it just it stinks that it takes something of that nature to happen. So
Yeah.
anyway, we'll see. We kind of touched on NC State a little bit, just to dive into them again. Disappointed with the start. They finished, strong against an
Yeah.
FCS. I guess you should. Massive test for them. We'll preview that much more as the week continues and as we get to Friday for sure, KG.
Mac, with NC State, though, I know it was, the first half and even the third quarter. You got Jordan Waters going. You ended up rushing for over 200 yards, which is not what I would have thought just watching the
Sure.
game. I thought Grayson McCall showed a lot of moxie, a lot of confidence. Confidence is kind of my trigger word in this episode. And fighting through that adversity. Again, should you have adversity against Western? No. But I don't know. I'm not as down on NC State. And Concepcion he's unbelievable.
So good.
So I feel like we need to kind of pull it back on the overreaction for NC State. Yes, it was disappointing. I get it. But I still think you have a lot of pieces if you're NC State.
Sure.
So just relax a little bit. But I know you do have Tennessee this week. So obviously there's a lot of urgency with that one,
The
Matt.
problem is your defense looked bad
Yeah.
and you couldn't run the ball.
Yeah.
Not a great combination when you have a team that just scored like 200 points.
But you lose something they didn't really talk about. You lose your starting linebacker and the guy who was wearing the player to coach player communication early on for targeting. So maybe that hurt a lot.
We'll see. I hope that was
I get it, though, Mac.
the whole thing was because Cade Fordham went out. Gosh dang it.
Maybe.
He's back. He'll be fine. We'll see.
Maybe.
Let's go around the league a little bit, KG. We're going to do something new this year because there's so many teams. We've got to kind of quickly go around. So we're going to start on Thursday. I'll go with Wake Forest here. Loved what I saw from Bachmeier when he got his chance. Didn't start. Michael Kern was the guy. Hank goes in, just casually dropping dimes to 3 different receivers for touchdowns, 260-something yards. I think Wake Forest kind of, again, I get the opponent, but it was just good to see against anybody because we couldn't do it against Elon last year. We can do it now. A lot of skill, a lot of old skill, guys that play really hard, do really well. Taylor Morin is a beast. That dude had a punt return for a touchdown, 100 yards as a receiver. I don't know if Wake Forest is necessarily back to what they were with Sam Hartman, but already it seems to me light years better than where they just were.
Yep, I'm with you on that one, Mac. How about North Carolina going to the Twin Cities and beating Minnesota 19-17? Minnesota misses a last-second field goal. I don't trust Max. I don't trust lefty quarterbacks. I don't trust lefty punters. I don't trust lefty kickers. I don't know what this is about me. I probably need to work on it because that's not very tolerant of me, but I just don't trust it. But you know who I trust? Noah Burnett. He is our king. Noah Burnett. By the way, intern Nick had the over on him for, or the higher, on field goals made. Great call. Noah Burnett's the MVP. I'm not sure what we look like going forward with Connor Harrell. I'm assuming being the guy with Max Johnson out. That was a bummer for him. But you have Amarion Hampton, and you need to ride that guy. He's your guy. He's your workhorse. Use him. Hampton and Noah Burnett. That's my team. That's my Tar Heels right there, Mac.
Okay, let's keep going. We'll stay in the Tar Heel state. I'll say North Carolina. All 3 teams. We're going to go to Duke. Malik Murphy, ups and downs, had some big throws, had a couple of touchdowns. Duke not being able to run the ball on Elon. Shocking. It's so weird. People that were struggling, to run the football, but the defense looked good. Jordan Moore, 100 yards. I mean, that guy is so good. I'm excited to see the continuing building and relationship there with the Duke quarterback and wide receiver.
I agree, Mac. Let's go out west. TCU beats Stanford 34-27. Stanford covers. We hinted at that. I thought that number was a little high. Stanford, I felt like just didn't have enough offensively. Manor was pretty good, but Ashton Daniels, he only passed for 163. While you got Josh Hoover for TCU throwing for over 350 yards. So just not enough offensively, but kind of pleasantly surprised with Stanford. Maybe this is a team that could threaten to make a bowl.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see. I did not like the first drive. It felt like they just had to have penalties or they couldn't do anything.
Yes.
But they kind of figured out, settled in a little bit and got going there. As we jump to Saturday, the Cardinals, my gosh.
Yes.
Love what I saw there. Exploded, nearly rushed for 300 yards. Those guys were electric, scoring a bunch of points. Again, we understand the opponents. We understand it's week 1, but it was really nice to see. I thought Shook played really well. Evaded pressure. He was just falling back, dropping dimes for touchdowns. and really like the defense. Anytime you get a shutout against anybody, it's pretty impressive. So Louisville off to the races.
I'm keeping an eye on Louisville. I like what they've got
Good.
going on there. We'll see when they play, obviously, a better team. Kind of similar. Well, no, not similar. I don't have as high expectations for Pitt. But Pitt beat Kent State 55-24. And Mac, they're scoring 55 points for Pitt. They're going faster. And I feel like when we talked to Pat Narduzzi when he was on vacation, remember? And we really talked about Nate Yarnell. And we didn't really talk about Eli Holstein, who, we didn't get much indication on that, but he passed the ball 40 times, completed 30 or 40 passes for 333 and 3 touchdowns. They ran the ball well. I know it's Kent State, but I like this new look Pitt offense, Mac.
Yeah, I do too. They're fast and the most points they've scored in a year. So great to see that they're back moving the ball and doing that. Syracuse, I was concerned with. I was frightful.
Yeah.
I was terrified. Then they figured it out. Kyle McCord throws it nearly 40 times, 350 yards, 4 touchdowns. Fran Brown apparently is sending champagne to Columbus to thank
Love that.
Coach Day for his quarterback, which was great. And Rondé Gaston, the real deal, 100 yards, touchdown, all that good stuff. Things that we expected to see. Something I did not expect to see. Syracuse giving up 255 rushing yards. What are we doing?
Yeah.
We'll see. Is it scheme? Is it bad day? Who knows? That extremely concerning to me. I hope they figure it out. If not, it could be a weird season for them, especially with all these great running backs that we have in the ACC.
That concerned me, Mac, but I did love what I saw offensively. Kyle McCord was using all of his weapons. Pena could play. He was fun. And we gave out the higher on Kyle McCord, 1.5 touchdowns. That was going to happen. But yes, defense a little concerning, Mac. Cal beats UC Davis 31-13. Cal did not look great. They forced 3 picks, but the biggest issue is Jaden Ott left the game, and that is really, really concerning. So check back with us on that, because if Jaden Ott's hurt, I don't know what Cal does. So I'm very concerned, Mac.
Little terrifying. Again, that's kind of the trend for this weekend. It feels like it's October. We're scared. It's Halloween. Everyone is terrified right now. But UVA looked great. Love what I saw from Calandria. That game is kind of weird. It felt like it felt way bigger of a victory than it was in regards to margin. Just because you never were like worried like you were in some of these other games. It just always felt like Virginia had control. Obviously, they had the crazy rain delay and things of that nature. But love what I saw from Calandria. Kobe Pace right under 100 yards. And guys making plays. I mean, Malachi Fields, diving catches. We knew that he was going to step up and be really, really freaky of a guy there. So excited to see that continued progression from UVA and excited to be there in a couple weeks to see them as they welcome Maryland.
Calandria is so fun to watch. I can watch him play all day. Kind of like what I was saying about Cam Ward. Mac, Georgia Tech beats Georgia State 35-12. Proud of Georgia Tech. I want to give you this little number here. The teams that were favorites and covered in the ACC this weekend: Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pitt, Louisville, and Miami. Stanford also covered as an underdog. So shout out to Georgia Tech. And Mac, what I like about Georgia Tech, Eric Singleton, all the talk, he had a pretty good game. Malik Rutherford, though, it feels like the weapons are continuing to emerge for Georgia Tech, and they handled their business. So shout out to the Jackets.
It was fun to see. Fun to be there in person. Coach Key, man, he's just a great dude. Love being around him. And we got to talk with Malik after the game. Funny dude. His birthday's coming up. Might be today, actually, if I'm doing my math right. So happy birthday, Malik. Excited to be with you in the A for your pre-birthday. All right, last one. SMU just explodes. I don't know who HCU is. I didn't know that it was a college.
Not good.
Maybe it's not a college, but it was fun.
It's a Bishop Sycamore situation.
Right. It's not real. But it was great to see SMU doing what we thought they would be doing. Scoring a bunch of points. Still have the 2 quarterback system going on, which do whatever you want.
Okay.
Preston Stone throws 9 passes and 2 of them are touchdowns. So I'm all in. The impressive part that I was absolutely floored by, SMU rushes for 370 yards. That is insane. And you love to see it. Pony up. Let's go. I'm semi back on the SMU train and feeling really good about it. So here we are. We're back. So anyway, great weekend. Not really, actually. It sucked. The weekend was terrible. But we have another game tonight. Can't wait. Florida State,
But
Boston.
Mac, look,
We'll be here.
football's back. That's all that matters.
Football's back. I
Football's
need to
back.
remove myself
And
emotionally and just be excited about football.
let's all remember too. I know no one wants to hear this. It's week 1. So much can change.
That's
It's
right.
week 1. That's it.
Right. No question. Anyway, thank you for the reassurance. As people know, men are very emotional, and this is a hard time for me right now. So thank you for
So I am
understanding.
team Mac.
But like you said, we'll bring something for you guys tomorrow based on what Florida State does, what Boston College does. I don't really know what to expect from this game, to be quite frank with you guys. I know that Boston College is going to try to run that football based on what they saw a game ago, but it'll be interesting. We'll bring it all to you. Appreciate you guys. Big shout out to Ingles, everything they do for us and our other sponsor and partner there with Underdog Fantasy. And continue to need your guys' help. Go over to YouTube, subscribe, jump in, leave some comments. Tell us about your team, win or loser. We love to hear about it. You can mourn with us or be happy with us. We do both here on this podcast. But appreciate you guys as always. Until next time, we'll see y'all.